new Connect app, which students would typically use to access timetables for face-to-face teaching, as well as it has the functionality of a link to enable students to access surveys. We found students weren't using this app very much in the last year, obviously due to the lack of face-to-face teaching. So the Blackboard pop-up functionality came at a very good time for us in terms of pushing response rates. Obviously the benefit in increasing response rates, we're quite a large university. We survey probably a couple of thousand modules a year. We also have response thresholds, so we only release a report at module level if 5 or more students complete a survey. So obviously the more data we get, the more reports we can release, the better insights we can gain, and the better insight we can get into our modules. Another benefit is that there was very little or no engagement needed for these pop-ups to be deployed. It didn't require any training for academic or professional support staff. It really was a seamless integration, which we actually introduced mid-survey. So module pages would appear unchanged to module leaders. It would only be students who would see the pop-ups when they were logging in. This is just an example of one of our traditional email invitations. So previously we would rely on students opening their emails and then using each of these individual unique links to access each survey available to them. A couple of the challenges in implementing the pop-ups. So obviously there's an initial resource requirement. So our IT department worked with Blue Professional Support Service to first test the staging environment before deploying to our production site. And it was during this process that we uncovered another slight data issue in that our student ID number here was presenting differently in 2 different systems. So in one system, it was an uppercase character. In one, it was a lowercase character, which was essentially preventing the 2 systems from talking to each other. So we basically had to perform a bit of a data manipulation in an SQL table, which sits between the 2 systems to transform this into the same form, so the systems could essentially communicate with each other. Another more of a consideration was about our synchronization schedule. So our survey system is linked to our student record system SITS. So SITS data refreshes into the survey system every 24 hours overnight as students join and leave courses and modules. Surveys are then generated and pushed through to Blackboard. So we just needed to make sure that these events happened in the right order and at the right time so that surveys were available for students when they were logging in the mornings and the pop-ups were appearing as intended. We generally launch surveys at about 9 AM in the morning. And as the title suggests, we have to give consideration to whether we're nudging or nagging students to complete surveys. Over-surveying is quite an issue generally. We do have the functionality to activate these pop-ups either on login to individual module Blackboard pages, or we can make them appear upon any kind of login to Blackboard. We've used both of these approaches. We've not had any complaints from students so far, touch wood, so I think we've got the balance about right. First slide is about response rates for our semester 1 module survey this year. We delivered 83,000 individual module surveys, so each student would complete around 3 or 4 surveys each. And you can see the point I've highlighted on the graph here is when we actually deployed the pop-ups. It was around December the 15th, and we can see that that green spike in response rates had a very positive impact and instant impact on response rates. So we had 16,000 surveys completed for that module survey. And even though we introduced the pop-ups midpoint through the survey, Blackboard quite quickly overtook email as the most popular method of completion. You can see on the second figure here, this is a different survey, but a more detailed look into daily response rates. So you can see the purple spikes here are our email invitations. Typically, we might see a nice green response spike when those email invitations went out, followed by probably quite a flat line until the next email response went out. But we can see here we've got nice pronounced green response spikes every day as students are logging into Blackboard. And this is my final slide. This is about response rates for our pulse surveys. So these are quite broad institutional level surveys. It's just one survey per student. I think a lot of universities are using these at the moment. We've been using them over the last year to gauge student sentiment about specific areas. So we've been asking about student well-being and support, access to IT resources, and their experience of the digital learning experience. So you can see in November, before our pop-ups, we relied heavily on email, and around 86% of students would use email to complete surveys. And then if we compare that to March 2021 with the pop-ups, you see Blackboard has vastly overtaken email, with 69% of students completing via Blackboard. I think my opinion is that a lot of students who might have just deleted our initial email have chosen to complete via Blackboard instead. I think the pop-ups are much better at intercepting the students before message. So we had an extra 1,200 completed, which I think is a considerable and very useful amount of data for us. So in conclusion, I think it's been quite a challenging year for surveys in general. It's been very good to have this additional method for students to complete surveys. And I think once we're back to face-to-face teaching, and module leaders can encourage students in class to complete hand in hand with these Blackboard module pop-ups, I think we'll see our response rates continue to rise. So thanks very much. I'm going to hand over to John, who is going to give a demonstration of the pop-ups in Blackboard. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Paul. I'm just going to share my screen. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, great. So hopefully you can see my screen now. So I just thought I'd quickly introduce myself again, because a lot more people have joined the session since the start. So my name is John Atherton. I'm the General Manager for Europe and Africa here at Explorance. And I'm just going to demo to you the pop-up mechanism and the access to surveys and reports within Blackboard Learn Ultra. But thank you very much, Paul, for the slides. It's certainly interesting to see the impact in the response rates and how students have been accessing the surveys through Blackboard rather over email. Obviously, email can be very effective, but it makes sense to put the surveys where the students are working. So I'm just going to log in as a student first. I'll quickly mention, in case you can hear any background noise, there's been some work going on at my house at the moment, so I apologise if there's any sort of strange noises going on in the background. But let me log in as a student first off. Let me try that again. So this is our demo environment, as opposed to the Northumbria environment. So I'm just going to show you in the Explorance demo environment here. So as we log in, this is the pop-up message that Paul's been explaining. So essentially, you can have a configuration show the different course evaluations that you have available at the time. It's only going to show the ones that are still in progress or still open to be completed by the students, and simply they can just click on the link, which will take them straight into their survey that they need to complete. I'll also just demonstrate again where else they can access this in Ultra. So if I want to get rid of the pop-up, I can hit the remind me later option, and I can then go into my course page. And again, if I open up the course page here, I can also have a a pop-up that will come up on the right-hand side, which you can see. Again, if I click on that, it will take me straight into the survey. But equally, I can dismiss the pop-up, and I can also embed the survey in the course content, which you can see here. Again, if I click on this link, it will open up the survey again. So the last thing I just wanted to show you as well, just while we're looking at the integration with Blackboard Learn Ultra, is I'm just going to log in as a teacher and show you where the teaching staff could access surveys should they need it, but also reports. So just clicking into one of the course pages in here. Again, depending on my role and my responsibility, I'll have access to a few different elements, including surveys. But here, if I click on my reports section, it's going to take me to a section where, depending again on my role, I'll have access to different types of reports. Clicking here, I'll be able to jump into my my individual course reports as well. So various different things that you can do with the Learn Ultra integration. But I'm just going to stop sharing there and see if perhaps for the last couple of minutes whether we have any questions for Paul or myself. And perhaps I'll just check the chat to see if there's anything in there. So there's a question from Julie. Did we get any feedback from students about whether they like the pop-ups, Paul?
To be honest, I don't think we had any specific feedback. We did try, I mean, as John showed a window there where there was a little message at the top saying, please complete your evaluations for the following courses. You can actually change that messaging. So we tried to be a bit clever. One of our surveys was open on May the 4th, which for the more geeky of you might know, it's National Star Wars Day. So we included a message, May the 4th be with you, complete your surveys, you must. And whether it was effective or not, I don't know, but looking at the messaging and marketing is definitely something we might want to try in the future.
Cool, thanks, Paul. So just picking up on a couple of other questions. So in terms of the survey software, so this is specifically for the Explorance survey solutions that are integrated into Blackboard Learn and Learn Ultra. Again, I don't think there's any impact on licensing with Blackboard. It's necessary to have both Blue, which is our solution from Explorance, to do that. But I think we've probably run out of time now, so we've got to wrap up this session as it's come to an end. But thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, thanks John, thanks Paul. If everybody wants to move back, Bill Ballhouse's session is about to start from the main room, and you can pick up any questions that you've got with John and Paul in the expo area of the main TLC environment and Engages. Thank you very much to both of you. That was very interesting. I could see there's a lot of interest from the participants. So we'll stop now the recording, but thank you again.